authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. I told y'all we'll be back live with breaking news of Antoine Massey caught in New Orleans, one of the escapees from New Orleans was caught, y'all. He was caught. Now, I don't really know if I want to come on camera. I could come on camera, y'all. Let me see something. Oh. And do a live face-to-face tea sip with my sippers on this here about Antoine Massey. Let me see. Oh. How is everybody? We are off of a Diddy live for 4 hours, but I'm like, breaking news. My cousin that lives down in New Orleans was like, did you just hear about Antoine getting arrested from one of the New Orleans escapees, y'all? So, yeah, he was arrested, y'all, for escaping from the New Orleans Parish. Okay. Let me turn around and y'all can see me. Okay. Hi, Tanisha Talks Teas. So we are going to jump right on into Mr. Antoine Massey. I kind of want to put my computer up on something because it's low. So let me see something. Okay. Can you guys see me? All right. So let's go ahead and share our screen. Antoine Massey, breaking news, tea sippers. He was arrested. Hold on, I forgot my notebook with my notes in it. Okay. So, my cooler. Let me see where we gonna go with Antoine Massey. WVU, WWL-TV. For Antoine Massey, breaking news. Breaking news, y'all. Thanks everybody for coming into the room. Remember, when you do, to like and subscribe. Hold your teacup up. Get your teacup filled up. Okay. And drop those teacups in the chat. You are live tonight with breaking news. Teams. Pause. Okay. Let me get my screen shared with you guys. Okay.
He and Derek Groves were the only two remaining still on the run. But this afternoon, we have learned at WWL Louisiana that Antoine Massey has been recaptured. We just got off the phone moments ago with
Okay, we're having a few little streaming matters here, or however have you, but it looks like he was captured a couple of hours ago in New Orleans. So breaking news. Antoine Massey from one of the escapees has been captured. He has been captured. What the fuck is going on with this?
He and Derek Groves were the only two remaining still on the run. But this afternoon, we have learned at WWL Louisiana that Antoine Massey has been recaptured. We just got off the phone moments ago with the U.S. Marshal's Office. They confirmed to us here at WWL Louisiana that he is, in fact, back in custody, that he was taken back into custody in the Holly Grove neighborhood. And investigative reporter Mike Pearlstein is joining me on the set this afternoon. You just got off the phone with them. Tell me what else you know. This happened in Holly Grove, as I mentioned?
Right, in the 9400 block of Strolitz, not far from the Costco on the way to Metairie Road. This was all within the past hour, so this is very fresh news and information. Antoine Massey was found inside of a residence. He was alone. He, according to Brian Fair of the U.S. Marshals Service, he was captured without incident. In fact, he gave himself up once surrounded by law enforcement. This actually came from a Crime Stoppers tip, Katie. So we know that a $50,000 reward had been offered for some weeks now. They had been waiting on tips, in fact, pursuing some of them unsuccessfully until today. This tip panned out. Somebody will be collecting $50,000. It came through Crime Stoppers. Other agencies involved, the U.S. Marshals were kind of leading the search, but instrumental and at this residence were representatives of the New Orleans Police Department, Louisiana State Police, U.S. Marshals, of course, along with JPSO, not far from the Jefferson Parish border.
Yeah, it's right on the line.
They assisted. Obviously, they were taking, no chances or risks with these. This particular escaped inmate being considered potentially armed, potentially dangerous, but it ended peacefully. He's now back in custody. Obviously, he'll be facing a charge of escape in addition to the previous charges for which he was being held at the Orleans Justice Center of domestic violence that included rape.
Yes, absolutely. Now, this area that we were looking at on your screen, this is a map where that house is, where Antoine Massey, one of the Orleans Justice Center escapees, was taken back into custody. If you're just joining us, that happened just a few moments ago. This area is really not too far from Xavier University's campus, which may be a bit unnerving for some parents out there who may be watching this, to know that Antoine Massey was hiding out in a house right there, not that far from the Costco, where a lot of people frequent. Hundreds, thousands of people go through that Costco every day. And apparently Antoine Massey did not get far when they escaped from the Orleans Justice Center, and remember, all 10 of them.
It was kind of assumed in the case of Antoine Massey in particular that he may not have gone far. We saw that previously he posted a video of himself on social media that was identified as a house near the fairgrounds, which was promptly descended upon by the law enforcement agencies. He had not been there, so assumed that whenever he videotaped that, it was sometime earlier before he posted it. But that gave them an idea that he probably had not fled across state lines or anything further. What is interesting, we've seen in many of these other escapees, accomplices arrested, booked with accessory to the escape. Right now, no such other people known to be involved in helping him, assisting him. Nobody was at that house in that Holly Grove area when they descended upon it to make that arrest. He gave himself up peacefully. Now, of course, we'll see once they debrief Antoine Massey if he provides any additional information. He was considered, Katie, one of the masterminds
yes, I mean,
of
we learned
the
that.
escape.
We learned that, yes, through the fact that they've arrested several other people, and so that has given us a bit of a paper trail as we've continued to cover this.
And he's been perhaps the most visible by popping up on social media. There had been many tips generated about his whereabouts, including the one himself going on social media. They were able to pinpoint a house there. It's now almost 6 weeks since that escape. It is really considered remarkable that Massey, up until today, and Derek Groves, the other escapees still at large, managed to stay out for so long with such a large reward being offered.
Apparently, one tip is all it took.
That's right, and that is always the kind of mystery of being a fugitive. How many people know of the whereabouts? Who did he trust? Well, apparently, I don't know if it was him letting his guard down or somebody deciding 50,000 was just too tempting to pass up, but it was in fact a Crime Stoppers tip. And Brian Fair, the spokesman for the U.S. Marshal Service, said that reward will be collected by the tipster.
Yeah, well, obviously there's still a $50,000 reward for information out for Derek Groves. He's considered the other mastermind behind this operation. We do know that Groves had an ex-girlfriend who was actually an employee at the jail, correct?
Right. She was a guard.
And she was a guard at one point, has since been fired. However, that's the only person that we've known with ties to Groves. Now, if he and Massey were the two who coordinated this escape, there are going to be a lot of questions, asked and hopefully answered by Massey now that he's in custody.
And certainly, the more that time passed from that May 16th escape, the more the law enforcement was operating on the theory that the escaped inmates had gone their separate ways. They were no longer, say, together in hiding. The last pair were the two arrested in Texas. They got the furthest of anyone we know so far. And they were together in a car, arrested by authorities in Texas. But everyone else had been arrested separately. Generally, if you're going to cover your tracks and remain in hiding, the fewer people that know, the better.
Sure.
Acting in concert with another person could also put them in jeopardy of being caught. Massey was again caught in that 9400 block of Strolitz in Holly Grove by himself in a residence, and that's generally, it's almost kind of on the edge of Lakeview on the way to Metairie Road. You could describe it as behind the Costco. A relatively peaceful residential neighborhood.
Yeah, not really Lakeview, but uptown. It's closer to Holly Grove, borders uptown,
right.
And other areas like that. Now, just a few moments ago, you were looking at a booking photo for one of the plumbers who was working at the jail, who has been accused of helping these inmates escape. Now, that affidavit in his arrest is where we got a tremendous amount of information about how this breakout happened. And that's when we first learned that Massey and Groves may have been the two that were the ringleaders behind this, and that they had been working together, that they had confronted this plumber allegedly. Plumber now tells a different story through his attorney, so all of those details are going to play out in court. I think that's when we're finally going to figure out exactly what happened, but you would assume that the U.S. Marshal's Office, the NOPD, every law enforcement agency, Louisiana State Police, which Troop NOLA has been essential in all of this, that they are all questioning Massey, that they are going to try and get as much information out of him as possible about, number one, how this went down, and number two, where Derek Groves might be.
And you mentioned in the case of the Sterling Williams, the maintenance man at the jail who was arrested, and in fact he was the first of the non-escapees to be arrested as a helping or an accomplice.
Yes.
And the initial account, I'm glad you used the word allegedly, because that's now in some dispute by his own attorney, but his allegation that he told detectives at the time of his arrest was that he was threatened with a shank, a crude homemade prison knife, that under that threat, he turned off the water so that the inmates could crawl through a hole that they, I guess, punched through a wall of an empty cell behind a toilet and sink fixture. Later, once he got to court, his attorney gave a different account, that it was a matter of a plumbing issue and maintenance that led to him turning off the water.
Even said he was not threatened with a shank by these two inmates. That's what the lawyer said in court once Sterling Williams went to court. So this is definitely in dispute, not completely 100% fact at this point, but that is what law enforcement believed, and that is what was contained in that arrest affidavit.
But we do know, obviously, Antoine Massey was vocal by, and obviously some risk there on going on social media, giving a lengthy account in which, as you recall, he said, I didn't escape, I was let out, led to obviously a whole nother sequence of questions as to who might have been involved. Obviously, Sterling Williams is facing the charges of aiding the escape. Were there others? The Attorney General's office is deep into a criminal investigation into whether there was other inside help. But by all accounts, Antoine Massey, he was vocal when he was on that tier prior to all of this. He was vocal when he popped up on that social media claiming innocence and the underlying charges that put him there, domestic violence, up to and including a rape charge, as well as the escape itself. Kind of hard to make that argument while a fugitive on the run when you're not where you're supposed to be in custody. But nevertheless, we heard it, he said it. I didn't escape, I was let out.
Yes, he also has a lengthy rap sheet as well for prior crimes in addition to what he's facing now.
And important to note that among the priors were 2 escapes, one from a jail and one from a juvenile detention center, as well as twice cutting off an electric ankle bracelet when he was out on bail. And so he's considered a 4-time escapee before this.
Which of course raises a lot of questions about the security of the jail, and we've been asking those as this has all played out about Susan Hudson and whether or not, decisions were being made to house these people in a secure enough position that they required, given that 10 of them were able to escape and be undetected for hours when this first all unfolded.
Oh, so many questions, and we have multiple parallel investigations. The AG kind of taking the lead on the criminal investigation into whether there was other inside help. But they, as we know from the very beginning, going over all of the video from inside the jail, that tier in particular, going and listening to the recorded telephone conversations that the inmates can make, when they're locked up. And that has actually led to a lot of, relevant clues and tips, unknown if that played a role in Massey, but I understand it was just a tip that finally came that pinpointed his location. They acted on it quickly here, middle of the afternoon on a Friday in an otherwise peaceful residential neighborhood, and now we turn our attention to the one remaining escapee, Derek Groves.
We do, yes, and we're going to talk a lot more about him in just a few minutes, but this has really been a game of whack-a-mole with trying to find these inmates. They have descended on location after location after location, and this afternoon, as we know and as we've been reporting, we now know that Antoine Massey was taken into custody on Orleans Street. Amelia Strahan is at the scene. She's joining us live now with the latest on what's happening out there. Amelia, I imagine there's a very heavy law enforcement presence, or at least there was.
Yeah, Katie, I believe there was. It has mostly cleared out from what we can see here from the 9400 block of Orleans Street. We're told Antoine Massey's around 6 weeks on the run have come to a close now. And we actually checked the distance from Orleans Justice Center, and we're only about 1.5 miles away. So after over a month on the run, he was located here on Orleans Street in the Holly Grove neighborhood. We're told multiple law enforcement agencies were involved in this arrest. We're also told that he did not put up any kind of fight. Now, NOPD is going to have the latest information on this arrest and on the inmates on the run tonight at 5:30. And of course, WWL is going to have our Lily Cummings there, so we'll learn more about how the arrest went down here on Strolitz Street in Holly Grove. Now that, of course, just leaves Derek Groves left on the run. This makes 9 of the 10 inmates that escaped Orleans Justice Center back in May captured. So now 6 weeks after big development, I believe this is actually 6 weeks to the day or very close to it, and again found just about 1.5 miles away from the Justice Center. So we're looking forward to learning more details about this arrest. But again, for what we know now, Massey did not put up a fight with law enforcement, and he was arrested here on the 9400 block of Strolitz Street. Like I said, law enforcement appear to have cleared out of this area, but hopefully we'll learn more now that we know there were multiple law enforcement agencies involved. I'm sure when this arrest happened, it was a heavily patrolled area. So as we get those updates, we will keep you updated. And again, this is, around 6 weeks since that escape. So we're looking forward to hearing what the NOPD has to say tonight at 5:30.
Amelia, can you pan around and show us what the neighborhood looks like in that area? I'm just curious if it's just a regular residential neighborhood, or, was he sitting in the middle of a bunch of houses of people who just had no idea that he was in there? I think a lot of people at home might have those same questions. So what does the neighborhood look like where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me step out of the frame really quickly so you guys can kind of get a better look. There are other news crews here as well. Everyone's interested to see what happened here. It looks like a lot of just residential, there's a bunch of houses. There are some people with nicely kept gardens over there. It looks like a really peaceful street. We've seen a few families come in and out of their houses. So it's not exactly the kind of place you would expect someone to hide. It looks very peaceful, very, like a family-friendly area. Like I said, we've seen a few people come in and out, not heavily trafficked. Again, is a Strolitz Street, 9400 block, Holly Grove. Again, very residential area, and it appears to be peaceful right now, Katie.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a high fence. If that is the correct address, I'm assuming that you're standing in front of. There's a high fence there. Looks like the yard is well kept. It raises all these questions about whether or not he was in an abandoned house, whether or not someone who owned the house knew that he was staying in there. I'm sure those questions are all being asked by law enforcement tonight, but it's very interesting that it's already cleared out. They must have swooped in and cleared out, Amelia.
That's exactly what we thought whenever we pulled up. We were expecting to see a lot of cars, and it was clear. Again, we know there were multiple law enforcement agencies, and they've had their eyes on this guy for a long time. So hopefully that arrest was swift, like we are hearing from law enforcement. He didn't put up a fight. That may be part of why the scene has already cleared. And of course, after so many weeks of hard work by our law enforcement agencies, we're happy to hear that it seemed to be a smooth arrest for the most part. And again, that's just what we're hearing from law enforcement right now, but we're going to get more information. Now, as far as that house goes, I heard you mention the high fence. I'm not 100% sure that is the home. We're told it was on this block. Now, hopefully that's a question that we will hear more from NOPD about tonight. But again, all of these houses look, well kept. Looks like people live here. So there have been a number of accomplices that have been arrested. So it'll be interesting to see if he was here alone, if he was with someone, if he had help. All of those questions we don't know the answers to now, but hopefully we have more from NOPD tonight at 5:30.
All right, thanks so much, Amelia. And a lot of those neighbors are going to have a lot of questions themselves about what was happening at that house next door. So thank you so much for that. And we are just getting into the WWL Louisiana newsroom. The latest picture that we have of Antoine Massey after he was captured. You can see it here on your screen right now. It appears that heavily armed law enforcement officers took him into custody again peacefully this afternoon, from what we hear from the U.S. Marshal's office. That is Massey with handcuffs on, being walked by those heavily armed law enforcement. I can't tell which agency. It looks like it just says police on their vests. From where I'm standing, but this is a picture that we got just into the WWL Louisiana newsroom, and you can see underneath the super that's on your screen, that banner at the bottom of your screen, law enforcement agency insignias mentioned there, 5 of them, 5 different law enforcement agencies, all apparently working together to bring this escaped inmate back into custody. He is now going to be facing a number of other charges in addition to the ones that he was already in Orleans Justice Center for, awaiting trial, Mike.
Well, certainly the escape, and I know that he has an opportunity. He was very vocal when he posted that social media video about claiming his innocence and wanting to fight charges against him, including the escape, which he said he was let out. It'll be interesting to see if he's that vocal by the investigators who have been chasing him, and really, I can tell you, pursuing tips that we heard of a few early on that came up empty. I can tell you, I spoke to law enforcement this week. The tips did continue to roll in much more quietly. They very intentionally wanted to give the impression that, you know, the heat was turned down a bit, maybe hoping for either Groves or Massey to let their guard down, slip up. What would be interesting, I know that we're going to check the neighbors where he was finally captured in that residence. My guess is that they probably did not know a thing.
I would think, can you imagine finding out that one of the escapees is hunkered down next door? I imagine that's terrifying.
For one, here's a guy who had successfully, eluded law enforcement up to this point, so he certainly wasn't signaling where he was, and with a $50,000 reward hanging over your head, any neighbor who got wind that, hey, Antoine Massey is here, I can call this tip in and get some money. On top of that, Antoine Massey, as we've seen from the photographs and his mugshot especially, has very visible facial tattoos.
He's very distinctive in his appearance because of those tattoos on his face. And so it's crazy to think about the fact that he was one of the last two captured, given how recognizable he is. So it just makes you wonder, what's been going on throughout this time, how he has managed to, get information. Now we want to go to Amelia Strahan again, so let's listen in to the interview that she's doing right now.
I understand sensitive situation, but I guess your thoughts, this is an inmate, inmate that has been on the run for quite some time. If you can. Yes, ma'am, your thoughts on Antoine Massey?
I don't know what's going on, sir. I don't know. I really don't.
Gotcha.
Are you shocked?
I'm very shocked, yes. I don't want to be on the news. I don't know what's going on. Where's the police? I don't even know what's happening. I get a call and I'm just coming and everything's over. I really don't know. All I know is they found the guy here and that's it. I don't know what's going on.
Were the police here when you got here?
I just got here right now. I don't see no one here but you all.
So it was cleared out?
I don't know. I can open the gate. I just don't want to be on camera. That's all.
For sure.
So police told you it was at this address?
Yes.
And do you know anything about the tenant?
There's no tenant here. It's just a family house. Like I say, I'll normally do Airbnb, but I'll keep it open. I just keep it open.
Okay, so was it a family that he was here with?
I don't know anything, man. I really don't. I don't know anything.
Yeah. How many units is this? Two. Two units, and you own it?
Yes, I own it.
Well, I do appreciate your time, ma'am.
No problem. I'm still trying to find out what's happening.
Thank you so much.
Much information.
Okay, they're asking her, do you own the property and all of that? What does it matter? Because,
I understand. Would you mind saying a few words with us if we don't put your face on the camera?
Amelia Strahan, she is out at the scene where this inmate was found this afternoon. A woman who says that she uses that unit as an Airbnb from time to time, said she really didn't want to go on camera, so we were trying not to show her face there.
Property.
But, apparently that's where Antoine Massey was hiding out, and that's where he was taken into custody. It's very interesting that even the property owner was not told by law enforcement what was going down when it was going down. So that tells you just how much they had to secretly inject themselves into that situation as to not alert Antoine Massey that they were on to him, go in there, get him peacefully, and get him out of there as quick as they went in almost.
And I can tell you, from a house that they approached earlier this week, this was on a Derek Groves tip, that law enforcement did assemble in force with multiple different agencies, and they very, very intentionally did not make, say, a SWAT scene or surround a house. They kept it completely kind of
quiet,
almost like undercover surveillance to determine if, in fact, Derrick Rose was at that location.
Right, and
he was not.
We're going to go back out to Amelia again. She's got some more information for us. So, Amelia, what you got for us?
And explain the situation, because this is two properties.
Hey guys, we're actually talking to the woman who owns the. Let's turn the camera this way. We're actually talking to the woman that owns the Airbnb where Antoine Massey was allegedly found. She doesn't want her face on camera. We want to respect her request. So I'm going to get Robin to put the camera back down, and we're going to ask her a few questions. You guys can listen in.
I'm here and I don't even see cops.
I mean, is it shocking to hear this happening not only on your property but in your neighborhood? Because a lot of people we spoke to say they were just talking to someone just cutting grass here earlier today, and then this happened.
Yeah, it's a pretty quiet neighborhood. It's kind of shocking, but hey, things like this happen. We just have to, kind of be careful, I guess,
Have you seen any signs of this? Anything suspicious?
Not seen any signs? No.
And it's only one tenant you were telling us that lives here.
Yes, only one tenant.
And you said, telling me when you were closing the gate that Antoine Massey might have run in, broken in.
Right, because I'm frustrated too. I don't know what's happening. They say this is going on, and I get here and I don't even see a cop. So, so I don't know.
So
and what do you know about the family? Do you know anything about the family, the tenant that was staying there?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Who actually called you and alerted you of what was going on at your property?
My friend called me. A friend of mine. I guess it's all over the news and they know my property.
Did she see the whole arrest happen, or just the law enforcement presence?
Just the law enforcement. Yeah.
In your message to NOPD, you weren't even really notified.
I don't have a message anymore. I'm really, I'm shocked right now. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. All right, now I'll pull the camera back up, guys. Yeah, so like we mentioned, this was a quiet street. Now we just heard from the woman who owns the Airbnb. Robin, I'm going to get us to turn around really quickly. You can see there's a really high gate here. She says that she knew nothing about this until her neighbor called. She says it is 2 units in this the property, but there was only one family staying there. Now, she said she doesn't know what happened. She doesn't know if, potentially he broke in. She doesn't know if there's any association with the family. She said she is really in the dark right now. She wasn't on the property when this happened, and she pulled up and there were unmarked vehicles in the driveway. So again, Antoine Massey, like we've said, 6 weeks on the run, 1.5 miles from the Justice Center. This is where he was arrested. This is a 9400 block of Strollett Street in the Holly Grove neighborhood. Again, we were talking to the woman that owns the Airbnb where he was allegedly arrested, and she said that it's a really quiet neighborhood, and she used the word several times, shocked. She said, I am shocked to hear that this happened. She said, I never expected it would happen on my property. So she didn't want to show her face on camera. Understandably, this is a high stress situation for her, and really caught her off guard. She wasn't able to share much about the family that lives in this Airbnb, or was staying in the Airbnb at the time, rather. But she did say it's a 2-unit property. Only one of them was occupied, and we're waiting to hear more details from police. Now, I want to give you guys a look at the neighborhood, because like she mentioned, it looks pretty quiet. I'm going to walk you down the street here. There aren't a lot of people outside. There are some, it looks like, homes over here, really well kept yards. We've seen a few families walk in and out. So definitely a quiet area. The Airbnb, you can see it has this pretty tall fence, very well kept. And the woman who owns the Airbnb again said she was completely shocked whenever she found out that he was located here. Of course, she's been watching this on the news. So it was kind of one of those I never expected.
This is that social media video that Massey posted a few weeks ago after his capture, claiming that he was let out of Orleans Justice Center, that he did not, in fact, escape. However, all evidence points to the contrary. So we're going to have to see what he has to say to law enforcement now that he is back in custody today.
And that's an important point, simply because he stated that. It's in a recorded social media post. And he now has that opportunity to explain, what did you mean when you said that you were let out and that you did not actually escape?
Yeah, right. I mean, there are big questions, I think, for Antoine Massey, as he's probably being interrogated as we speak, Mike. You would assume that they are, moving as quickly as they can to get any information that he might have, number one, about how this escape happened, and number two, about where Derek Groves might be. And Sharice Gibson joining us now here on set as we prepare for our 5 o'clock news, since we've been breaking into programming. So we're going to have much more on this escape as we move throughout the minutes and hours to come.
People are still talking about it and still talking about Derek Groves, who is still out there. And the question is, everyone thinks, and some experts have mentioned that Derek Groves probably has some support and some help. And of course, we'll learn more about Antoine Massey and where he was found in Holly Grove.
Right, and perhaps a debriefing of Antoine Massey could at least help investigators understand you cannot stay in hiding without some connection to clothes, food, shelter.
The minutes are numbered.
In a second.
That's right.
All right, y'all. That was some coverage on the Antoine Massey breaking news, y'all. He has been captured. Okay. So let's keep it moving. Tea sippers. Thank you for sipping tea with Tanisha Talks Teas. What's up next? Some more news coverage. Let's see where we could go with this. Okay, Antoine Massey. Capture. And yeah, Auntie was up here talking about how he was arrested for an ongoing thing with his girlfriend that may seem to have, some issues or whatever mentally. So, she may have or may have not called the police on him, arrested or however, whatever have you. And so Antoine Massey is alluding to the fact that he was let out of jail some way, somehow. So we'll, continue to find whatever on that. Let's listen to the live NOPD speak after Escapee was captured, Antoine Massey. When you come in, like and subscribe. Okay. Yes.
So you Well, good evening, everyone. We are very pleased to announce that we now have Antoine Massey, one of the escapees, in custody. And I want to thank our partners for...
Okay, they are proud about capturing Antoine Massey. The relevancy of this matter is, though, the reality is that Antoine Massey has been free for 6 weeks, and he's been taunting the New Orleans police. Antoine Massey has been on live. I believe he celebrated a birthday free, where he had some type of a pool party situation going on or something of the sort with Mr. Antoine Massey. So, I mean, all of that head nod and all of that, that's a little premature of y'all right now, because Antoine's ass has been running circles around y'all's asses for a month and a half. A month and a motherfucking half. Okay? Yeah.
But Antoine Massey was taken in custody in the city of New Orleans district. He was actually walked out of a home peacefully at night.
It's low, huh? I can't even really hear it myself.
He peacefully gave up to law enforcement who had surrounded the house. I'm going to have the sheriff at the end speak to the event, because it is the sheriff herself who got the tip from a citizen, and that alone speaks volumes to her legitimacy of relationships that matter. So when a community believes and trusts their police departments and their law enforcement agencies, they work cooperatively. And so she will speak directly to that situation. I want to thank all of our partners who were present because truly they were all out there as a team. So from ATF to FBI to our
Gosh, she's speaking so low I can't even hear.
to go ahead and turn this over to our.
You can remain anonymous, but we need your help. And collectively, we will not rest.
So Derek Groves is still free. I cannot hear this.
Went from 5 to and then 3 on it was Memorial.
That audio is so low. I'm not going to continue to strain myself. We know that Antoine Massey has been caught, right?
We'll find these, and it's due to the resilience of law enforcement. It's a lot of good police work.
Let's go to live NOPD Speaks. Let's see if this.
We do want to focus our efforts right now on New Orleans, Louisiana. Remember those 10 escaped inmates? We have now learned that I believe the final one has been taken back into custody.
Derek Groves is also still free still. Derek Groves is yet to be captured.
Penultimate one, should I say. You see there Attorney General Liz Murrill saying this: Antoine Massey has finally been recaptured in the Holly Grove area of New Orleans. He will now face additional charges for his role in the escape, and I'll ensure that he will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law there, as you can see. Also, she goes on to say, great work by all our law enforcement partners. So here it is. One of the final 2 escaped inmates has been captured in New Orleans. Now remember, that means one more on the run. And that suspect on the run has been on the run for what? Almost 2 months' time as we brought you this story from the very beginning there in New Orleans. We're listening to law enforcement officials there announce the arrest. Let's watch.
See, one of the escapees in custody. And I want to thank our partners.
We can hear it better over here. If not, guys, turn your speakers up and your listening ears.
We've been a team this whole time. But Antoine Massey was taken in custody in the city of New Orleans in the 3rd District. He was actually walked out of a home peacefully at 9414 Strolets. And he peacefully gave up to law enforcement who had surrounded the house. I'm going to have the sheriff at the end speak to the event because it is the sheriff herself who got the tip from a citizen, and that alone speaks volumes to her legitimacy of relationships that matter. So when the community believes and trust their police departments and their law enforcement agencies, they work cooperatively. And so she will speak directly to that situation. I want to thank all of our partners who are present because truly they were all out there as a team. So from ATF to FBI to home police department, our violent offender warrant squad, our own violent crimes team that is a specialty team that we call VCATE. Of course, our partners in the state police are obviously our partners with the sheriff and the Orleans Sheriff's Office, and also our U.S. Marshal is going to speak to you in a minute. I know HSI is present, and also Jefferson Parish has always been a great partner to us. So many, many thanks to you. We still have one more. We have Groves. And so Groves knows that we are going to capture you. You will be taken into custody, but you still have the option to peacefully turn yourself in. And we will make an appeal to you to do so. All of these captures have been able to be done peacefully, and that is also the end of the game. We don't want anyone hurt. Not our own officers, and certainly not Mr. Groves. So the opportunity is there at any time to turn yourself in. And as I had spoken to the fact a couple of weeks ago, we do have the public defender is ready to meet you and to be with you from the very moment you choose to bring yourself in. And then Darlene, who's the face of Crime Stoppers, will also have the opportunity to make her appeal and to give the Crime Stoppers number. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn this over to our U.S. Marshal for our area. This is going to be Chief Walter Ivy. And then after Chief Ivy, I know that Director Harper will call people to the podium. And then probably after him will be from our Colonel Robert Hodges. So Chief Ivy, please come to the podium and share with you about the event of today.
Good afternoon. I'm Walter Martin. I'm the Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal here in New Orleans, the Eastern District of Louisiana. Thank you all for coming. I want to start by thanking the men and women who have been working tirelessly to not only arrest Mr. Massey, but the previous fugitives, as well as those that have helped in Mr. Massey and the others evade the capture and who have brought the others into custody. And I also want to thank the men and women who are working hard to find Mr. Groves. They will continue to work hard. As the chief said, we'd appreciate if Mr. Groves turns himself in, but at the same time, we're not going to stop. We're going to continue on, and just like we found Mr. Massey today, we will find Mr. Groves. We'll continue our efforts. We are thankful, too, that Mr. Massey came out and there was no problems today. He was arrested around 3:30 this afternoon here in New Orleans.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Colonel Hodges.
Good evening, everyone. Colonel Robert Hodges, Superintendent, Louisiana State Police. As everyone knows, today marks the 6th week of the escape, and it's through the partnership of the men and women and the leaders behind me and those who are not present but still working, as Chief Ivy stated, that we owe the credit to. This is truly has been from day one a joint operation. Although led by Louisiana State Police, our federal partners, the FBI, the ATF, Homeland Security Investigations, the U.S. Marshals, Secret Service, as well as our local partners, New Orleans Police Department, the Orleans Sheriff's Office, the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, and our other state agencies, probation and parole, many of those, as well as our Department of Corrections. Everyone has really given an incredible amount of resources. It's through our resilience and, more importantly, our collaboration is why we were able to bring Mr. Massey into custody today. But let's not lose sight. One still remains Derek Groves, and without the public's help, I appeal to everyone to please reach out, contact Crime Stoppers, contact the ATF or the FBI. The collective reward remains at $50,000 for that fugitive, and it's imperative for the safety of this community and all of Louisiana that you reach out to us. Those who have continued to help and aid, which includes Antoine Massey, those will also be brought to justice. As I said previously, there are consequences for your actions. And when you help and aid and assist those to remain at large as a risk to the community, you will be charged accordingly. We look forward.
They have caught Antoine Massey hiding out in somebody's basement, y'all, around the corner from the jail in Holly Grove, 3rd Ward District.
Forward to the opportunity and the day when Mr. Groves is taken into custody. We would like it to be peacefully. We encourage him and anyone who knows him to reach out to any of the agencies that you see here. You can remain anonymous, but we need your help. And collectively, we will not rest, even if it takes another 6 days or another 6 weeks, until the last fugitive is in custody. Thank you.
Okay. HSI representative.
So I just want to, I guess, reiterate our commitment to our partners here, to public safety here, for the community in New Orleans. We're all very excited that Antoine Massey's in custody now, and we'll continue working alongside each of you to ensure that we bring Groves to custody too. Thank you.
Sheriff Hudson.
Okay, good afternoon. I am grateful to stand here with our law enforcement partners. Chief Kirkpatrick and I shared a moment this afternoon when she called me to talk about the press conference. Just about the relief about having Antoine Massey into custody. 9 of 10 escapees, we've got 1 more to go. Like all of our law enforcement partners, I call on Derek Groves to do the right thing and turn himself in. This is a major step forward in our efforts to restore order and accountability after this serious incident. I want to thank our community for reaching out to me personally to provide the information directly leading to Antoine Massey's capture. As soon as I received this information, I reached out to our detectives who are a liaison to the state police, the Attorney General, the NOPD, and the United States Marshals Task Force. They've set the actions in motion, which led to his capture. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to all of the folks up here and our partners up here. I have to give a special thanks to our deputies, of course, who coordinated and worked together to make this happen. But we're grateful to this community, as both Chief and the Colonel both said. Together, we made this happen, and I'm grateful. I also want our community to know that OPSO continues to harden and modernize the facility. That is well underway. We're installing new razor wire, tightening physical barriers, upgrading locking mechanisms. These all play an important role in the safety of our residents, staff, and the entire community. These are just the first steps in a very urgent plan, and we can't do it alone, and we call on all of our partners to help make sure that the investment needed here is done. So again, thank you all for your hard work and your partnership, and we look forward to getting Mr. Groves in custody.
Okay, we're gonna take some questions. Trying to pull what's up with you.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm back here and I'm short. So in the Holly Grove area, we were able to talk to the owner of the property who said it was an Airbnb. Do we know at this point, was he assisted in renting that Airbnb?
So let's have the Colonel speak to that.
So right now, obviously, we're still in, questioning Mr. Massey and others who were aiding and assisting him, and we don't have any comment regarding specific details, but it's pretty obvious over the last 6 weeks to remain a fugitive that long. He had assistance, he had help. Whether or not it was someone helped him with the Airbnb, we would have to think yes, but who and all those things will be determined later. And I would just encourage the public, you think you're helping your family members and your friends, but you're not. You're putting everyone else at risk for selfish reasons, and please do not continue to do that with our remaining fugitive, Derek Groves, and those who assisted Mr. Massey will have consequences for their actions.
Can y'all take us through the timeline of how long it was from when you got the skip to when we were recaptured?
Okay, so I think, Sheriff, if you can do the timeline and then Chief Dan here, because it occurred in our city, obviously, so please go ahead and explain how you got the clip.
I'm not going to get into the details of how I got it. Of course, we don't. This is we're grateful to our partners at Crime Stoppers, where you can be anonymous in being able to come forward. But this all started between 10 and 11 this morning, culminating in his arrest at 3:30.
So as far as the special operations and the U.S. Marshals, I happened to be at the Special Operations Division complex when they were getting ready to move to that location. So I would say it took no more than an hour from them being activated to his capture.
Channel 6.
With Derek Groves still at large and all the other inmates captured, does it still indicate that Groves orchestrator was the ringleader of the original escape?
I would just say that Groves, along with the other 9, all had help. And we know that, and they continue to have help. And we'll just leave it at that. As far as who was the leader in the escape, I think they all 10 wanted to get out on their own. And they would do anything to get out. And whatever that led to is where we are today. But once again, every one of them had some type of assistance throughout the process, especially once they left the facility.
26.
I think the question now that everybody's really wanting to know now is, where's Groves? Do we have a lead on his location now? Do we have at least a target on him? Or is it a shot in the dark at this point?
Look, just as we said in previous conferences, we have many investigative tools and technology and a lot of leads that come in. All the tips that the public brings to us are investigated to the fullest. Sometimes we think we're incredibly close, and then we get to a residence, an apartment, a condominium, or a home, and they've just moved because they have help. We're still confident, just as we were about 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had a conference when we were at 8, and we went from 5 to, and then 3 on, it was Memorial Day, if y'all recall, 1 in Baton Rouge and 2 in Texas. we still believe today that we will find these, and it's due to the resilience of law enforcement. It's a lot of good police work coupled with investigative tools and technology and the state-of-the-art equipment that we use to help us. And, we can't do it alone. We need the court's help. I failed to mention earlier, our Eastern District of Louisiana, our U.S. Attorney's Office is very helpful to us, as well as all our judicial districts in and around the state that provide us the assistance and grant and honor our requests for state or federal warrants, which helps further these cases. They take time, they take patience, and we just ask the public to continue to trust law enforcement, and then we will eventually locate Mr. Groves.
Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate
Wait,
it.
I have one more question.
Okay, we'll wrap it up.
Reese, I have a question. Did the tip come directly to the sheriff, or did it come through Crime Stoppers? I'm sorry, can we just clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, it came directly to me.
Okay, so did they just call you up?
I'm not going to give any information about that.
Did they get the $50,000?
I'm sorry?
Did they get the $50,000 reward?
I'm not involved in.
Look, just so everybody understands, the reward remains $50,000. Of course, it's a combination through Crime Stoppers, through ATF and FBI. And certainly if they reach out to one of those hotlines, those tip lines, they are eligible for that reward. But I don't want to go into the details. I don't think we just standing right there outside the residence and handing out a check. It remains anonymous, and Crime Stoppers does an incredible job. Darlene and her team, and all those who take the calls round the clock. And it is available. I don't know, the process, but I'm certain in days to come, if they had called Crime Stoppers, but I'm gonna leave it to Darlene. Come on.
Darlene, you can share the number with people because we are vetting every tip through Crime Stoppers. And it's about how many now?
We've had over probably now 1,200 original tips and several thousand that are follow-ups. Yeah. And I can only speak to the fact that we did receive a tip today, which I understood led to the arrest of Mr. Massey. So we'll be working with our partners, the U.S. Marshals, and on the Crime Stoppers portion. And if that is the qualifying tip, again, our tips are anonymous, so we don't know who they might have spoke to or where they came from. It is an anonymous tip, and we don't ask those questions. As far as the FBI's reward process, we will certainly point them to that direction so that they can then work through that process for the additional $20,000. And it's the number, it's 822-1111, or go online to crimestoppersgno.org. And yes, we encourage anyone with information on Mr. Groves. Y'all have been calling. We're getting tips daily on the two inmates. Continue. And thank you to law enforcement. Yeah. Incredible work.
$50,000 is life-changing for a lot of people. It'd be life-changing for me. So let's make sure that people understand that. You have information, it leads to an arrest like today. That's $50,000 minimum that we've already committed to, okay?
Go ahead. Yeah, and can you speak a little bit more to those Instagram posts that Massey allegedly made? Was that him making the post? Was that someone else? Will those lead to any arrests?
Go ahead and speak to it. It's still under investigation.
Look, we have a lot of posts, a lot of social media, as you all know, and some things are dated. Everything that we see online, our Fusion Center, our law enforcement partners, it's vetted, it's collaborated. But keep in mind, by the time you see it, someone else has already seen it. You don't know the exact time and date. You don't, but we do. And so just like when they move from home to home or neighborhood to neighborhood throughout the city or throughout the state, they're constantly moving. So it's actionable intelligence, and it's only good for a short amount of time. So to answer your question, we confirm all of the social media posts, regardless of the platform. We utilize that as an investigative lead. And then if we can move further that, we do. And I think sometimes it helps us, but sometimes it really just excites the public, and maybe it's a good piece for you all. But I just want to close with this. I know it's going to be asked, but I'll go ahead and voice it to you all. Mr. Massey, once we finish processing him and bringing him back to the Orleans Parish Jail and doing the booking, he will be relocated to the Angola, to our state prison, and it will be flown there sometime later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you.
Let's make a hole over here, please.
Okay, thank you.
So now they are making no mistake in the capture of the Antoine Massey character that escaped from the New Orleans Parish Jail when he should have been transported at that time. He was laid over for whatever reasons and able to mastermind and escape with 9 others to escape the jail. Now they say that will definitely be prevented, as tonight his ass will be flying back to prison, Angola. One of the worst prisons we ever heard of in our lives. Antoine Massey will be accompanying his other fellow 8 inmates awaiting Derek Groves.
Okay, so big breaking news out of New Orleans as the penultimate escaped inmate has been captured. His name, Antoine Massey. Remember, all 10 of these inmates escaped there from the Orleans Parish jail complex on May 16th. What is it? June 27th there. So 6 weeks on the lam for Antoine Massey. We heard there that an anonymous tip came in to the tip line with information regarding the whereabouts of Massey. That tip came in.
$50,000 will be awarded to those tipsters. Depending on how many it was, it could be 50,000 divided by no one, or 2 or 3. Nonetheless, they say the FBI guarantees the reward monies. So God bless you, you and yous, whoever was, a help to capture Antoine Massey. Let's get it.
In today, and they took him into custody today here. I want to put up the photo of some of law enforcement officials taking Massey into custody. This was posted by Louisiana State Attorney General Liz Murrill, the Republican. Been brought back into custody just yet. You remember that incredible surveillance camera video?
As you can see here, Kendall Miles, Leo Tate, Antoine now captured Massey, Jermaine Donald, and all these other fellows down at the bottom, I cannot see their names, sorry, have been captured. There's only one left in the middle, Derek Groves, looking like somebody's auntie, okay? He has very girlish qualities to his facial features. He is still on the lam. They need everybody to get this one into custody. Let's see if we can find some footage of some live stuff from the police actually capturing Mr. Antoine Massey. Okay. Thank you guys for sipping tea with Tanisha Talks Teas. Remember to like and subscribe and drop those teacups in the chat. So Antoine Massey captured. Video capture. Let's see if we can find that. Again, be safe. Keep yourself, family safe, okay? There are wanted fugitives everywhere, not just these. There are wanted fugitives that come from all over the world. Be safe, be vigilant, be mindful of your surroundings and the people that you are surrounding yourself with. We love our sippers, and we want all our sippers to stay safe.
Speak with the homeowner, who told me that it was so shocking that she got a phone call and she rushed over here. She said that her son was actually on the property a little earlier. So it's really hard to kind of put together that someone was actually on the property. But take a look at this video. We were able to obtain that video from a nearby homeowner. Shows what that scene looked like maybe an hour or so ago, as several law enforcement agents were here on scene. Excuse me. With big guns, heavy police presence, K9 walking onto that property, trying to get Massey out of that house. And, 6 weeks to the date, this has been, all hands-on approach and effort from several law enforcement agencies to get the remaining 2 escapees back into custody. So now we have one still on the run. But that homeowner says that that she just rushed over here, frantic, wondering what happened. And just to give you a little perspective here, the property where he was captured is actually 2 two homes on the property, so we're not clear on which property Massey was in. She do tell me that there is a tenant that lived on the property, but they were not home at the time. She says she's still trying to learn more details from law enforcement agents. And I know you guys have been speaking with several people. We heard from the U.S. Marshals who said this was a joint effort, but I want to let you all listen to what that homeowner told us, speaking from behind her fence.
I'm frustrated too. I don't know what's happening. They say this is going on, and
We're going to get the story now. We are going to get the story. I don't blame her for wanting to be anonymous and cover, kind of PCI'd up or whatever, protective custodied up in a sense, because you never know who could be tied to Antoine Massey and be mad that he's arrested again, right? And the police are telling the area, telling where they are, Holly Grove. If you're from where this is at, you can look around in the neighborhood and recognize where this is and potentially go and cause her some harm. God forbid, you see what I mean? She's smart. She's hiding her identity.
So, it's a pretty quiet neighborhood. It's kind of shocking, but
we're going to get to
hey, things like this happen. We just have to, kind of.
And what the homeowner told me, that it's a quiet neighborhood. Several people who live in this area have echoed that exact same thing, that this is a quiet neighborhood. They heard a huge commotion, came out to check and see what was going on, and that's when they saw the heavy police presence. The homeowner also telling us that she's not familiar with, some of the people, and she's trying to, make sense of what happened here, trying to piece it together herself, but she's really looking for answers. She says she's just finding out from us who were here in front of her home. So we will have more from that homeowner and bring you the very latest on air and online. Reporting live in Holly Grove, Jonah Gilmore, WTSU News.
All right, Governor Jeff Landry just posting this statement to social media saying it's the final countdown. Thanks to our incredible state police for their continued dedication in taking these criminals off the street.
And Attorney General Liz Murrow also posted on X saying Antoine Massey has finally been recaptured in the Holly Grove area of New Orleans. He'll now face additional charges for his role in the escape, and I'll ensure that he will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Great work by all of our law enforcement partners, end quote from Attorney General Liz Murrow.
To stay up to date.
All right.
Breaking news in Louisiana. New Orleans jail escapee Antoine Massey has been captured by U.S. Marshals. Authorities say a Crime Stoppers tip led them to a home in New Orleans. Now only one person, Derek Groves, remains on the run. You may recall a total of 10 inmates escaped from the New Orleans jail back on May 16th. Only one remains on the run now.
All right, so we're going to end our live with Antoine Massey, and we're going to say this. There was a reason why, okay? Not just because, of course, they're criminals. Of course, they don't want to be in jail. There was a bigger reason why the rabbit hole goes a lot deeper, okay? The New Orleans Parish jail is disgustingly well fucked up. It's very unkept. It's very deprivative. It's disgustingly down bad in the New Orleans jail. And we've seen that from pictures. Live, go back and, check that one out when they first were escaped. I deep dived into the entire story of the Louisiana Parish jail escapees, okay? I think it's with the Louisiana burning of the plantation story. I think they're combined, but it's on here. So, New Orleans was just like back to back to back, on fire with breaking news stories. So I covered the plantation burning down and then the escapees escaping at, the same time. It's deplorable in the parish. So, yes, the inmates, of course, they're inmates. No inmate wants to be locked up. Yes, they were escaping. They also had people on the inside of the jail helping them escape. We've covered those aspects of the case, where people that were working at the jail actually helped them. they were, discovered to be helping these inmates escape. And they were also jailed, for helping these inmates elude the police and escape from the New Orleans Parish. So the rabbit hole goes very, very deep, like very deep into hell, where like the funds are very misappropriated for the needs of making sure the jail structure is able to withstand the inmate capacity. Okay. So as I said, one more, Antoine Massey caught, right? Being taken right to the Angola prison tonight. They said he will not even be sleeping at the jail, so that there will be no more, of these happenings going on, right? And then they got Derrick Groves still on the loose, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled, ears alert for the moment that his capture is also breaking news. Thank you for talking teas with Tanisha. I love y'all. See y'all next week for the Diddy wrap up trial of the Diddy of the century. Y'all let me know down in the chat what y'all think. Do y'all think Antoine Massey was just like, a matter of his circumstance, girlfriend, kind of police on him, happens every day. And he saw the opportunity to leave the jail and just said, fuck it. And still his choice to do so. He will now be serving extra time. So I think it's like 5 to 10 years extra time, depending on what type. And I believe this is like Antoine Massey's 4th time, 5th time, maybe escaping from jail. So he could get 20 years. Who knows what they might do to him? They said the fullest extent of the law. They might make an example out of Antoine Massey. So we're going to stay tuned to that. Lots of more breaking news stories coming our way with Tanisha Talks Teas. Have a great night and a blessed weekend. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.